amazing, beautiful people, and a happy 4th of July to all my American brothers and sisters watching this video right now. For the 4th of July, it has been heavily recommended and requested that me, as a random British reactor here, random British guy, should react to the Star-Spangled Banner as you've never heard it before. Now, I don't know anything about this video, literally nothing. This is a complete blind reaction, but I have been told that for the 4th of July, this is a video that I should check out. So, I'm going to stop talking. I hope you all have an absolutely wonderful day in America and the rest of the world. And if you enjoyed this video, please consider pressing that subscribe button. And let's jump into my first time ever reaction to the Star-Spangled Banner as you've never heard it before.
There was a lawyer once. His name was Francis Scott Key. He penned a song that I'm sure you're aware of. You've seen it. It's in most hymnals throughout our churches. It's called the National Anthem. It is our song as an American. We go, however, to a ball game. We stand in our church services and we sing the words of that song, and they float over our minds and our lips, and we don't even realize what we're singing. Most of us have memorized it as a child, but we've never really thought about what it means. Let me tell you a story. Francis Scott Key was a lawyer in Baltimore. The colonies were engaged in vicious conflict.
Is this a, so we're going to get a historical retelling of the story behind the Star-Spangled Banner. This is really interesting because I have no clue. I don't even know my own country's, national anthem off by heart, let alone the story behind it. Sadly, I'm not a big fan of the UK's national anthem, and I have so much love and respect for how much music and the national anthem and everything in American culture is so much more unified than here in the UK. Meaning that all of your songs in the US are about the people, and the people looking after the people and loving each other and respecting each other and the country and that sort of thing. But here in the UK, we only care about one person. That's either the Queen or the King. Everyone else in this country can get stuffed. As long as the King's fine, and that I don't like our national anthem. It should be Jerusalem. I think our national anthem should be changed to Jerusalem. If you know that song, you know what I mean.
With the mother country, Britain. Because of this conflict and the protractedness of it, they had accumulated prisoners on both sides. The American colonies had prisoners and the British had prisoners. And the American government initiated a move. They went to the British and they said, let us negotiate for the release of these prisoners. They said, we want to send a man out to discuss this with you. They were holding the American prisoners in boats about 1,000 yards offshore. And they said, we want to send a man by the name of Francis Scott Key. He will come out and negotiate to see if we can make a mutual exchange. On the appointed day, in a rowboat, he went out to this boat and he negotiated with the British officials. And they reached a conclusion that men could be exchanged on a one-for-one basis. Francis Scott Key, jubilant with the fact that he'd been successful, went down below in the boats, and what he found was a cargo hold full of humanity, men. And he said, men, I've got news for you tonight. You're free. He said, tonight I have negotiated successfully your return to the colonies. He said, you'll be taken out of this boat, out of this filth, out of your chains. As he went back up on board to arrange for their passage to the shore, the admiral came and he said, we have a slight problem. He said, we will still honor our commitment to release these men, but it'll be merely academic after tonight. It won't matter. And Francis Scott Key said, what do you mean?
Yeah, what does he mean?
He said, well, Mr. Key, he said, tonight we have laid an ultimatum upon the colonies. Your people will either capitulate and lay down the colors of that flag that you think so much of, or you see that fort right over there, Fort Henry? He said, we're going to remove it from the face of the earth. He said, how are you going to do that? He said, if you will, scan the horizon of the sea. And as he looked, he could see hundreds of little dots. And he said, that's the entire British war fleet. He said, all of the gunpowder, all of the armament is being called upon to demolish that fort. It will be here within striking distance in a matter of about 2.5 hours. He said, the war is over. These men would be free anyway. He said, you can't shell that fort. He said, that's a large fort. He said, it's full of women and children. He says, it's predominantly not a military fort. He said, don't worry about it. They said, we've left them a way out. And he said, what's that? He said, do you see that flag way up on the rampart? He said, we have told them that if they will lower that flag, the shelling will stop immediately. And we'll know that they've surrendered, and you'll now be under British rule.
This is a true story. This is a true story. This really happened. I'm curious. Like all the Americans watching this video, did you all know this story? Is this a common knowledge story? Or is this something that was just like let slip through the cracks of history? Because I didn't know this. But then again, I don't know much about the British-American Wars, like at all, really. Even though it, in terms of history, it didn't actually happen that long ago. It feels like a distant fog as much as the other wars of history is. But yeah, I never knew this. I had no idea behind this. But I'm more curious if this is something that's common knowledge in America, or if a lot of people didn't know this story either.
Francis Scott Key went down below and told the men what was about to happen. And they said, how many ships? He said, hundreds. The ships got closer. Francis Scott Key went back up on top and he said, men, I'll shout down to you what's going on as we watch.
Wait a second. I see what's going on. Okay, so first of all, this man sounds a lot like the guy from Gremlins, like same sort of voice, and the dad in Gremlins. I don't know if it is the same guy, but very similar. So they're not allowed to leave the ship until this has all gone on. So they're basically free, but they are only free after this happens. Until then, they have to stay on the ship. Is that what's going on?
As twilight began to fall, and as the haze hung over the ocean as it does at sunset, suddenly the British war fleet unleashed. He says the sound was deafening. There were so many guns that there were no reliefs. He said it was absolutely impossible to talk or hear. He said suddenly the sky, although dark, was suddenly lit. And he says from down below, all he could hear the men, the prisoners, saying was, tell us where the flag is. What have they done with the flag? Is the flag still flying over the rampart? Tell us. 1 hour, 2 hours, 3 hours into the shelling, every time the bomb would explode and it would be close to the flag, they could see the flag in the illuminated red glare of that bomb, and Francis Scott Key would report down to the men below, it's still up. It's not down. The admiral came and he said, your people are insane. He said, what's the matter with them? He said, don't they understand this is an impossible situation? Francis Scott Key said he remembered what George Washington had said. He said the thing that sets the American Christian apart from all other people in the world is he will die on his feet before he'll live on his knees. The admiral said, we have now instructed all of the guns to focus on the rampart to take that flag down. He said, we don't understand something. Our reconnaissance tells us that that flag has been hit directly again and again and again, and yet it's still flying. We don't understand that. But he said, now we're about to bring every gun for the next 3 hours to bear on that point. Francis Scott Key said the barrage was unmerciful.
This is something I was actually just thinking about now as well. It's interesting they addressed it immediately as the thought was in my head. Which is, how has the flag just not been blown to smithereens? How's it still standing? It's like an indestructible flag. Is crazy. Also, the fact that this fort is predominantly not a military fort and this is going on, it just seems like an act of stupidity on the British's part. Because what is the point in this? What does it accomplish? Nothing. Like why would you target something that has no significance, like, of value in terms of a strategic thing, other than emotional, really? I guess that's what they're going for. But strategically, it's just like a pointless fort to target, right? It's more of a civilian fort. So, like I said, it just seems like an act of stupidity, and if anything, it would just burn the fires deeper, right? Yeah, just the British being stupid, as was quite common in this war.
All that he could hear
And the Americans just standing brave.
was the men down below praying. The prayer, God, keep that flag flying where we last saw it. Sunrise came. He said there was a heavy mist hanging over the land, but the rampart was tall enough. There stood the flag, completely nondescript, in shreds. The flagpole itself was at a crazy angle, but the flag was still at the top. Francis Scott Key went aboard and immediately went into Fort Henry to see what had happened. And what he'd found had happened was that that flagpole and that flag had suffered repetitious direct hits. And when it had fallen, but men, fathers, who knew what it meant for that flag to be on the ground, although knowing that all of the British guns were trained on it, walked over and held it up humanly until they died. Their bodies were removed and others took their place. Francis Scott Key said what held that flagpole in place at that unusual angle were patriots' bodies. He penned the song, "Oh, say can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming? Or the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that the flag was still there. Oh, say, does that star-spangled banner yet fly and wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave? The debt was demanded. The price, it was paid.
Oh, say.
Whew! Damn it. Oh, man. Oh, man. A story I never knew. American culture influences the entire world, so I probably know the American National Anthem more than I know the British one. And I must admit, I would say that's more of a pride thing, because I don't feel proud of our national anthem. It doesn't fill me with pride, and I get like pushback here in the UK when I say that. But I don't. I'm not proud of our national anthem. There's no prideness in it. It's a national anthem dedicated to one individual, and there's 70 million people in this country. And whenever I hear it, the first thought that comes into my mind is, what about them? And then we look at our American brothers and sisters across the sea, and we listen to their national anthem and all the songs and everything around the unity of their nation and one family united under a flag, and I'm strangely proud, and it's strange, but I never knew the history behind the Star-Spangled Banner at all, and man, it's a devastatingly sad story. But goddamn, hearing that story, I can imagine as an American, doesn't it make you proud? This is what I want to feel with our national anthem. I don't. But I imagine after learning the history behind it, a lot of you Americans do feel this about yours. Because one word stands out more than all others. And that is brave. Say what you want, but goddamn, those are some brave people. Some amazingly strong and brave people.
It was paid.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming? crisscross stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight, o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets sprayed clear, the bombs bursting in air gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say, does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave? Oh, say, does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Wow. Wow, wow, wow. A story I never knew. I'd never been told, and there's no reason for me to know it, but I'm glad I do now. I don't know how many views this video will get, but I'm looking forward to seeing the number and knowing that hopefully, however many views this video gets, some of those people didn't know this story before and can learn it for the first time with me here. I feel like you should always be proud of where you're from, but more importantly, you should be proud of the people you surround yourself with. And that can be as small as your friends and your family, and as big as your country. And I feel like being proud of your country and being proud of the people are two of the same and completely different. And especially in today's world. And I would say that after learning the history about this, one thing that you can all take away from this is pride for those people. For the people who started that nation, America, and the bravery that they had in a night of complete terrifying destruction, and the ultimate sacrifice of giving your life for something you truly believe in. Something that echoes through the entire history now, and even if people don't know the words or the meaning behind the words, they still sing the song, which is still as important. Yeah, something I never knew, but the history around this is beautifully horrible. What brave souls. In a night of constant bombardment, to see the flag fall and to walk over and pick it up yourself, knowing that your time holding it was temporary, and knowing how important it was. Yeah, I had no idea. I think this was a good choice for today. Hopefully it can teach some people who didn't know this. Hopefully it can give you a bit of unity as well. And just know that we have to stand together now as brothers and sisters across this planet. And we learn from the mistakes that our ancestors made in the past. and we never repeat them because we're not those people anymore. And this was, like I said, beautifully horrible. Man, makes me proud of a national anthem for a country I'm not even from, which is crazy. You know, just a British person reacting to this, and yeah, I'm proud. I'm proud of my American brothers and sisters, and I'm proud of this song. And I love all of you, and I hope you have a wonderful celebration today on the 4th of July. And I'll be here to spend it with your family, and you enjoy some fireworks and some awesome food. Thank you very much for watching my video. I'll leave a link to the original in the description if you want to go check it out for yourself. Happy 4th of July, all of you. And as always, my friends, you right there, see me in the next video.